don't stop. Brain 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 don't stop.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Chewed Gum. Today is Tuesday, May 6th. It's Tuesday, as we like to say.
Yes.
I'm Alyssa. Oh my god, and I'm on the left side. That doesn't happen very often. Okay, I'm left side
kinda
Alyssa
like
today. All right. And we are joined by the infamous Promise/Eve of Eve Was Framed, and of Cadis, and
Do you
of
think
Promise.
do you feel like when I get back, because I'll be away from Chewed Gum for a little bit. It's my last one for a while. But I feel like by the time I'm back, can we drop the /Eve? Can we all? I feel like
Yeah.
at least on Chewed Gum we can get through that together.
I think so. I think that that's completely fair. I think it's time.
Yes, I love it. I'm just posting to my story that it's our last live episode together for a while and telling people to come watch and call us. Morgan, that's amazing.
I love it.
If
I
you
love it.
guys want to give us a call, it is 720-619-2288. I was just asking Alyssa how she is because she's had a whirlwind of a weekend, and you've been sick and you're still here with us today. Thank you.
I'm always sick, I fear. I think it's just like my immune system is not great. I need to figure this out. I think this year especially, don't you feel like I've been sick so much? I feel like I'm always doing this show with like a little something.
I feel like you have been. Yeah, I mean, you're on planes all the time though. So, and you're like having to do a lot and be around a lot of people. So it makes sense. It's like back when I was a nanny and I was around kids all the time and I was just sick every day. It was great.
Oh, so annoying. I think I need to just start taking like emergency regularly or something. But anyways, I also had my sister's wedding this weekend and it was so fun. It was so much fun. It was
You were so
the best
stunning. Your sister, of course, gorgeous bride, but I'm just like looking for my friend in all the pictures, And I was just like, you look so beautiful. That color looked amazing on you. Did you have a good time? Were you able to enjoy it, or was it just like sister of the bride all weekend?
No, I definitely enjoyed it. And it was interesting because normally when I go to things like that, I always want to like take pictures of like the moments that are really special, and like because it was my sister's wedding and I was in it, I couldn't actually take any pictures. So it was kind of nice because I got to be very present in the moment in a different way. And it also like, you know, when there are two people who get married where you just are like, I don't know, they just have, my sister and her now husband are so in love and so perfect for each other. And
Aww.
like, he was sobbing when she was coming down the aisle, like so excited. And just to see two people who so much deserve happiness, it was beautiful to see. So it was a really good time.
So sweet. I
Yeah.
love
What did
that.
you do this weekend?
Just decided to throw a house party right before we leave the country.
You're
for
insane.
who knows how long. Which, yeah, that morning, Yuka and I both woke up and looked at each other. We were like, why are we doing this? It ended up being lovely. Like, it was so good to get to see all of our friends, like our local friends, before we leave. So that was happening along with just like packing and trying to get everything ready. And it's just so weird to try to like pack not that much stuff, but like I'm leaving for months and months and going to be getting a place there. So it's like I'm like thinking through like, what do I want to leave there when I take it? So just my brain feels really fried. And then on top of that, as you guys know, which you should be so glad that I won't be here most of the summer, so you don't have to hear me complain, but I'm writing my book now and it's, you know, the manuscript is due September 1st. So that is also just like a full-time job at this point.
That's crazy.
So between all of that, and then of course, getting invited out by friends to go do stuff last minute. So I've been like working all day, like so exhausted. And then at like 9:00, friends like, you want to go meet up? And then I can't say no because I know I won't see them for so long. So you would be so proud of me hanging out past 9.
I am
5 days in a row.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm gonna miss, obviously I'm gonna miss everybody here and like the chat, which I finally have started paying attention to, and Amargan, but I'm really gonna miss you and like our weekly scheduled time together. You know, that's like how our friendship is mostly playing out right here. And so we'll have to find ways to keep it going.
Yeah, I'll probably just start sending you voice notes of when things are happening so that you're just updated all the time. And then you could send me voice notes whenever you are time zone. Because that's the other thing is like the time difference between here and there is so drastic.
It's so bad. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, I'm going to Finland for a while. And my husband's from there, so we spend part-time there and part-time here. And yeah, it's like a 7-hour time difference. And last summer, I tried to do it. I tried, you guys, and it was just, it was a lot. So I will still be tuning in sometimes. I'll join. And I think that we're still going to be able to do some of the podcasts together. So if you want to see Alyssa and I chatting, yapping it up, we'll find ways to make it happen.
Girl.
Also, a reminder for you guys, we have our Recovering from Religion fundraiser this weekend, and I will be a part of that. Literally getting off the plane, basically. I am staying up and gonna just fight the jet lag, and I will be doing something on Friday. More info to come on that. But then Saturday as well. And we are taking super chats of $5 or more tonight still, but also asking that you keep in mind that we will be asking for donations this weekend from Recovering from Religion. And every single dime that you donate this weekend will go straight to them. None of it comes to us. None of it comes to YouTube. And that's good. This is why we do the fundraiser, is to help Recovering from Religion do what they do best, which is help people recover from religion.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I think I'll be participating mostly on Friday. I don't know. I haven't gotten like an official. Sorry, I'm picking up Bonnie to put her on the. Bonnie, where you going, girlfriend? Come here. I think it'll be mostly Friday for me, but I also think I put down Saturday. So I don't know. It'll be a fun time. I'm excited. And on Friday, quick little Bonnie cameo. Hey, girl.
Bonnie, I'm gonna miss you.
Yeah, Bonnie, you're gonna miss your friends. Well, she'll see everyone else. She just won't see you. But on Friday, I think I'm gonna have another friend of mine who's a amazing sex educator who's gonna be doing the live with us, hopefully.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah, she's amazing and she's so knowledgeable. So, like, if you think I know my stuff, she's even better. Okay, I promise I'm
That
done
is super
messing
cool.
with this. So yeah, it'll be a really good time, and I'm so excited.
There's literally a fly in here right now, you guys.
No way! It's a sign.
It's like a little fruit fly, and it's very annoying. But yes, there it goes. So if you see me
It's a
looking
baby
distracted,
Tinkerbell.
it's from that. It is. It is a little tiny Tinkerbell. Well, we have callers already. Do you want to pick
Yeah.
the first one?
Well, I know we have
We
at
have
least one
two theists.
theist. Ooh.
Oh boy.
Wow.
Shall
You
we start with?
choose.
Yeah.
Very different tones.
Yeah. Let's talk to Jacob and hear why people should be believers.
Okay, great. Let's do it.
Hey, Jacob, you are live on Chewed Gum with Promise and Alyssa. How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you guys?
Doing
We're
well.
good.
That's awesome. So yeah, I'm shy. So so I have a couple points on why people should be believers.
And
So my first
just
point
for,
is that
real quick, Jacob, just for clarification's sake, be believers in what specifically?
God.
Okay. Is there a
Source.
specific God?
Actually no, because my beliefs are like a mix of Hindu and Christian, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint.
Those are very contradictory beliefs. Okay, so you just think people should believe in a God or gods in general, and you don't really care which one or anything like that.
Well, so I don't know. Hindu is almost monotheist in a way, just because a lot of the gods are really just a representation or avatar of the main one. So a lot of them just kind of fall out of that. So,
Okay, let's hear why
but
we should believe that these gods exist.
so because there is a lot more in life for our in our experiences than just like the material world. Things like awe and wonder and love. Those go. Those are almost like transcendent feelings that speak to a more complete human experience than simply just being here materially in the world.
Why?
I'm not sure I understand.
Why do you think that? Why do you think that that feelings of awe and wonder are more, I think you said the word complete in comparison to what? And why do you think that points to something other than the material world?
Because it offers a more complete human experience. Because
As opposed
somebody who's
compared
focused
to
on
what?
like the material,
Com-
because somebody's focused on material, they may not feel those things like awe and wonder and etc.
Jacob, I feel those things every day, all the time. I don't need to believe in a god or any gods to feel awe and wonder and love and peace and joy and sorrow and all the things. These are just human experiences. So again, I'm trying to get to the part of why do you think that points to there being any gods?
Just because there's like a unity of those experiences. Like for me, it seems to be something beyond those that unifies those. Kind of like an interconnectedness, I guess.
So you're saying seems to be. I guess I feel like you're calling in kind of just telling me, well, these are things that I think, which is cool, okay, but I'm not getting to the part, and maybe Alyssa's picking up on something I'm not, but I'm not getting to the part where it's, okay, why should other people believe this? Like, why should we believe that an entire God or gods exist?
Yeah, this feels a little like when we have these conversations and we like kind of go in a line of questioning for a while, and it ends up resolving in, well, I have faith that this is true, and then that's sort of like where the conversation dies. So I'm originally what the like call note was, you were explaining why people should be believers. And if we're saying we can experience awe and wonder without needing to believe in a God, what other reason, or what does having a God involved in our lives, how does that create awe and wonder in a different way? And actually, I would even argue that it does the opposite, because you're giving me reason for why things on earth like are the way they are, like the mysteries of life, like the purpose or whatever. Where when you don't have that, when you don't know what happens after you die and you don't whatever, that feels more like awe and wonder to me. Surrendering to what we don't know.
Yeah, and just the organicness of everything. Like, that's way cooler,
Yeah.
that Earth took so long to be what we see now, and as opposed to some guy just, and there it is. But Jacob, does that make sense? Our question, we're really just trying to figure out, like, not necessarily why you're like, well, I think it's a good idea because of this, but we want to know, why should other people believe what you're saying?
So I guess my main point is just like a higher being can just create those and connect those experiences.
How do you know that
for me
though?
is like
But so again, we're saying things, but then we're not giving reason why we should believe that. How do you know that a higher being exists, much less can create anything?
So I don't know. In some sense, I don't really care what you believe, but in the other, because that's where I was like, I'm a soft theist. I'm not dogmatic, but so like I could bring in like the cosmological argument. I think where you had like Brian or something another on like another video, and that's actually what drove me to this channel. But like, because you're talking about trees and seeds and how the seed grows into the tree, which came from another tree, and you trace that back through like the trees and seeds evolved into what they are, and then across like millions of years of evolution on Earth and the 4.5 billion years of the Earth forming, and 14 billion years for the universe. You trace all those causes back. Eventually, you're going to run up against, okay, well, what was the first cause? Where did what initiated the entire process?
And how did you determine that it was a god?
Something must have done it.
Why?
I mean, we can talk about it.
Why couldn't the universe have always existed in some form or another? So, yeah, Jacob, I think we're reaching a point here. Like you said, you could cite the cosmological argument, and there, we've addressed that so many times because it's not an argument, it's an assertion, and the problem is you're basically saying we don't know an answer to something, and so I'm going to fill in the blank with therefore God, instead of just being honest and saying, well, we don't know. We really don't know. We don't even know what the possibilities are. So I appreciate you calling in, but I think you might want to be a little better prepared next time, and you're welcome to call in sometime. But I think we're reaching a point where it's just now we're, like you said, cosmological argument, and literally look at the trees, which is just, those aren't arguments. That's an inability to be comfortable with not knowing something. And I'd rather just be honest and say we don't know. Alyssa, do you have any questions for Jacob? You're muted.
Sorry, I was coughing. I'm on the same. I'm on the same page.
So Jacob, how does it sound for you to maybe go rethink kind of some of this and call back when you're better prepared with just some solid answers as to like why we should believe that there is a God?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Okay, cool. All right. Thanks, Jacob. Thanks for calling. All right. Yeah, as much as I would love to do the cosmological argument over and over and over again, as soon as it starts turning to look at the trees, then I really...
Yeah.
Not that that's what was happening there, because actually I think he was just getting to the point that there's something created all of this. But again, it gets back to the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do have another theist, shall we?
Yes.
Go ahead.
And this the notes that we have are indicating that this is a very different kind of call, and I'm I don't know, like, all of the like fallacies and the, like, I don't, like, sometimes I get a little like lost in the sauce when people are using this like very high level like debate and philosophical language, and I'm a little worried that that's what's going to happen here, but we'll see. We shall see.
Also, like, the way this is typed out doesn't even make sense, and one of these words is really out of place. So we'll just find out, because sometimes I think people also like to use words that maybe we can just make things more simple, and we can just discuss the issue at hand without having to get all into the philosophical weeds with it. Let's talk to Dominique.
Yes.
Or Dominic.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Dominic.
Hey
Hi,
there.
Dominic.
Yeah, you are live on Chewed Gum.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I think there's so many thoughts racing right now, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to go into like the why we should believe, and I believe a huge portion of that comes from the moral, the ethics, the objectivity of it, and just through my own like research on it, I haven't found any like secular framework that is able to like objectively derive like intrinsic human value the same way that a theistic conception of God can. And I do believe in a Christian God.
Okay, so real quick, let's point something out. In every scenario that you just, like, whether it's you being a Christian saying that you adhere to what God says, or it's me just being a human saying that I adhere to X, Y, and Z, and here's my moral what's the word I'm looking for? Foundation. Both of us are just humans that are subjectively asserting what our objective when it comes to morality is. So it's like you're telling us, oh, I think God says this, this, and this, and therefore that's my objective. And I'm saying, I think this, this, and this is a value, and therefore that's my objective for morality. So both of those are subjective things. Unless you have evidence of this God and exactly what he thinks is moral and isn't moral, which maybe you do, and we'd be happy to hear it.
Yeah, so I definitely don't have any like empirical, like 100% evidence. I just don't think that's a possibility. I do like to usually think of like the best course of action, if that makes any sense. And so when I'm looking at this, I guess, because the problem that I see is the like deriving the ought from is, I believe, is a huge thing within these frameworks. And so when I'm looking at like the nature of God, I think, so axiological, so that's like the study of value, ontology, which is being, and epistemics, which is like knowledge. I think they all have to converge. They're interdependent upon each other. And so
Dominique, instead of us going through like a mini philosophy class, I'm really way more interested in what your evidence for, like, let's start here. Do you want to believe something that is true or something that isn't true?
True.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. How did you determine that the existence of a God is true?
Okay. In theoretical physics, I would
No.
looking
Just
at
in
time.
human, like just normal, average people having a conversation. Like, what is your reason, Dominique's reason, for believing that a God exists and that is a true thing?
Yeah. So there is different things that are pointing to like a atemporal reality, and the implications of that lead me to progressively believe into a conception of God. Now, on top of that, you would have to derive other things such as consciousness and personhood from that. But that is like, it's an extremely long line of abductive reasoning that brought me to that conclusion. But the first step of that was the atemporal aspect of it, which can be seen from different physics models.
Like what?
So CFT ADS correspondence is one model where it's also called the holographic principle.
Dominic,
where
let's just like dumb it down. Explain it to us like we're 5. Explain it to us like we're 15-year-olds that are going to hell if you don't convince us that this God exists.
Okay. So there's a few things that have like predictive value, and within the equations and within the models, time is not fundamental, which means that at the fundamental reality of the universe, time becomes emergent. And then so the implications that I'm using off.
What does time becomes emergent mean, Dominic? I'm asking genuinely because I don't know what that means.
So it's like the relationships between things. Like there's a bunch of different views with it, and there's critiques for every view. But what, like the view that I've led down is the one that leads me to a conception of God, if that makes sense. So it being emergent would be the quickest definition would be like the change between relations between entities that measure. It's an abstract concept that is like realized.
But Dominic, you started your entire argument with this idea that God is outside of time and space and all of that, and you just asserted something. So I'm like trying to help you out here, saying like, okay, pretend we're 15-year-olds that you need to convince that a God is real. What is your evidence of that God? Because we can't start with a presupposition. I mean, you can if you want, and then the phone call is going to be over really soon because that's not an argument. But you're starting with this assertion, and I'm trying to figure out how you got there.
Yeah. So, like I said, there isn't 100% like empirical evidence of it. I don't believe there is, but I think
there's no evidence. That's what we're asking for, is any evidence. So what if you have any evidence for that? I would love to hear it.
I guess what would be your definition of evidence for this if it's not like the best
just
a logical conclusion from it?
Indisputable proof that can be replicated over and over again.
Because here's the problem. The things that you've pointed at, like everything can be explained naturalistically. And so I don't understand why we're now putting this whole, well, no, there's this atemporal. How did you reach that conclusion?
So the naturalistic thing, again, I don't think that morality can be grounded within a naturalistic framework.
It is.
And so
Here I
that's one of the
am
reasons.
living it out. Because can you prove to me that there is an objective moral source? Because what you're doing here is just circular logic. You're saying, well, there is a God because we needed to prove morality, and morality needs a God, and so we're just going around in a circle. But I'm telling you, I can sit here without any gods and say, okay, I am going to pick the objective for my morality, for my moral framework, which is going to be a mixture of well-being and consent and reducing harm, and deciding that I think, humans matter and should continue on, which makes sense, like evolutionarily, that I would want that to be a thing. And then, bam, I've got a moral framework and I work from it. What you're offering up is the Christian God, which all you have so far to know what the Christian God thinks or says about anything would be the Bible, which is a terrible source for morality. We could be owning other humans as slaves if we were following that, and yet it would take the time to tell us not to eat shrimp. It would be telling us to hate our family and choose religion instead. And it would be telling us that you can take young girls as your sex slaves when you conquer a country, which is also fine because genocide is totally fine according to this God. So I'm deeply confused why you need this whole presupposition of an atemporal blah, 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 when we can explain all of this without any of that nonsensical presupposition, not great morals,
Yeah, there's a couple of things. Is it okay if I touch upon them kind of in sequence?
Yeah, that was a lot, for sure.
For the first part, when just talking about your morality, I do I completely agree. Like well-being, flourishing, all these things are extremely important. But in terms of like truth tracking value, when we derive it from an evolutionary stance, that means the morality isn't immutable. So like
I don't think that it
shifts,
is. I don't think that there is such thing as objective morality. That's what I started with. Your morality is just as subjective as mine. I just think mine is better than yours.
I would also think that I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that we can come to an objective morality through subjectivity, but the way we do that would be differently. So I do agree with the stance on like the Bible, for example, how it's written. It does have things I disagree with. And I think the progression of that is more so the awareness of the nature of God. And so like humanity, it's trending towards a clearer picture of that instead of deriving our morality from the awareness itself.
How did you determine what a God thinks is moral and not?
From the implications of what it would mean if he was a perfect being. So
Dominic, how do you know what a perfect being is? You're just a human. How can you determine what is moral and what isn't? Are you saying that humans can do that?
Yes, I do think that we can determine what is moral.
Do. Because we decide what is moral or not. We make those decisions, we reach those conclusions, and they can be different across different cultures. And I'm sure that you think some things are moral that I think are horrifically immoral, and vice versa, because that's what humans do. And I know for a fact that there are Christians that I know that would think that what you think is moral is immoral, and vice versa, even though you claim to both be believing in the same objective source for morality. So I'm asking you, how do we determine what the objective moral standing is that this God holds? How do you figure that out?
Well, that's why I agree with you on that part. I think the grounding of it, so where it's like derived from. So like say something happened within an evolutionary stance where certain things we believe are moral now aren't moral in the future, or vice versa. I don't think like at any point in time, no matter the circumstances, like killing an innocent person is okay. Like even if evolution would prefer that in a sense. And so when I'm thinking
I
about,
don't use
again,
evolution to determine my morals either, Dominic. I'm asking, how do you figure out what an innocent person is? Because
an
in the
innocent person,
Bible, God has rape victims marrying their rapists. So, like, how do we determine who's innocent or not?
innocence, definitely. That is a good question. So for innocence, I definitely would look. You would have to look, I guess, what we're prefacing with like the ground of value itself, which I believe. So there's a term called agape, which would be the self. So
I'm
like
aware.
self. Okay.
But
And so
but that's this is all subjective from you. So I'm asking, where do we get to the part where I should believe you instead of what I believe? Why should I be convinced that you have some truth that I don't have? Because you said at the beginning that you want to believe things that are true. Same. Me too. I want to believe things that are true. I don't want to believe things that aren't true. So I'm asking, how do we get to the point where I know that what you're saying is true and not just these ideas that, you think are cool or whatever? Because I can easily fathom how we have morality without a God, because I think it's happening. But it's also subjective because it's what we've decided, and that's why it looks so different over time and across cultures, and even from person to person, because it is very subjective. And there's no God that's written this in our hearts and everything, or else you would see some consistency. You would at minimum see some consistency, you would think, in the book that he's supposedly left behind. So, sorry, that was a lot again. I'll get back to the main question, which is, how do we determine that the source you're claiming gives us morality exists?
I think that when we test it to anything else wouldn't sustain itself over time. And just so we go back to that like Bible thing on like one's view of scripture, again, like I don't believe that it's 100% perfect because the people that wrote it have a limited awareness of that nature of God, if that makes sense. And so what's written within the pages is kind of like it's trending along with humanity as we reach this, as we further refine our own perceptions of God. And so that's why I'm talking about the immutable aspect of morality. I do believe there are immutable things that will never change no matter what, which isn't based off of subjectivity.
I understand, like, you've laid out what you think about all these things. I still don't hear the part where, like, why should I believe that those assertions that you're making over and over and over again are true, are part of reality?
That's the part where I'm saying that nothing else can sustain, like, through existence, like through reality. So there's different principles and different values that can change, like ethics, like value itself. And so there can be subjective, like, fluctuations between cultures and between different things. And so what we see sustaining throughout, like at the basis, like every single point in time, most people would agree, like, killing, of course, is bad. And so these things that are
except most people
preserved,
wouldn't. Like, we see people now not agreeing with that, and we've seen that clearly in the past. But even if let's pretend there was one thing that all of society, all of humanity has always agreed on as far as morals go. Let's say that we always had this idea that children should be protected, which we haven't. Let's be clear. We see that happening now all the time where they're not being protected. But let's pretend that humanity has always held that value. Yeah, let's pretend that we have. That would be a cool world, first of all. But even if that were true, can you tell me how that gets us to a God? How does that mean a God exists? Why can't that mean we just have always had this shared value? Where's the part that we get to a God? Why wouldn't it just be an unexplained shared value?
So for like my conception of God, there's like being among beings and then being itself. And so I think that principle within that, like, if we're taking that principle from morality, we can attribute that as like an analogous to God's, like as a piece of God's nature. if that makes sense. The difference now deriving
I
it.
understand
Again,
how you're explaining it that way, but we're not ever getting, like, it's kind of just going in a circle over and over again, because we're never getting to the. Yeah, please, Alyssa.
It feels a little word salad-y, Dominic. It feels a little like I want you to explain your answers to these questions without feeling like you need to use really high level language, because I feel like the language is creating it's creating this weird boundary between the message you're trying to explain and like kind of we're getting lost in the weeds. We're getting lost in the sauce of it. And I want you to just speak clearly as Dom. Like, it sounds a lot like Jordan Peterson regurgitated. And I think that you, Dominic, have ideas of your own that you can bring to the table, even if you do identify with the things that he shares. I'm sure that you have reasoning that doesn't require the philosophical word salad on top of all of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand. Like, again, I guess I was just going off like the title question. I said from the very beginning, there's no like evidence for it. I'm just using the best reasoning and the purpose of it.
But do you think that people should believe things without good reasons?
I don't see how having like an objective morality that ensures like
but you don't
intrinsic
have
value.
one. You have a subjective morality like I do. We have objectives with our morality. We both do, I would think. But we reached those through different methods. You think that you somehow know what the God of the universe thinks is moral, and I don't think that a God exists. So I have chosen what I think are good frameworks for morality, and we're both being very subjective with that. And therefore, we have objective morality because we've subjectively picked objectives. But I still, everything you've offered so far is just a presupposition that there is a God. What would it take, Dominic, for you to not believe that there's a God? What would make you stop believing that a God exists?
I believe in. I mean, I guess if I'm dead and there's no afterlife.
There's nothing here or now?
Honestly, I don't think so. Just because with the way when I do like have a family or raise them and the values I want to instill with them and where I'm deriving those values from, it does come from an immutable God. And I don't see myself being able to like, teach or put those values within.
So you need for there to be a God to exist, because that's where you think that you're getting your values from, and you're afraid of what to do without that framework. That's what it sounds like you're saying, because I thought you cared about what is true or not. Because what if there is no God? And that sucks. There's nothing when we die. We have to figure out our own morality. We can't outsource our responsibility to some other being. We have to do the work ourselves, and we have to, parent well and be, humans that do decent things on our own without the motivation from a God or an afterlife. Like, what if that's actually what's true? Do you care more about comfort, which would be like, no, I can just outsource all of this to this other being? Or do you care about finding out what's true so that you can operate within reality and live the best life that you can based off of that, and have a family and teach them what you believe are good values, which apparently you're going to do either way? But wouldn't you rather them be in line with reality, observable reality that we can, communicate easily to each other, that we have evidence for, that we have good reason to believe? Because did you grow up Christian?
So my parents are Christian. I never,
Yeah.
not like huge church going, but I did. I would say it's more so come within the past few years of looking at different religions and different, just different things.
Yeah. I think that it would be really sad for you to not explore this a bit more and ask more questions, because this is a presupposition argument. This is you almost admitting that you need there to be a God. You need that to be part of your framework for how you view the world. And there are so many other ways to get that framework while also not making yourself believe stuff that possibly just is untrue. I think if you spend a bit more time looking into secular morality, have you ever read The Moral Landscape by Sam Harris?
Is that the consequentialism?
No, not really.
What it uses, or
no, there's a lot more to it. I mean, that's the other thing about morality, as you and I have both, I think, agreed. Like, it does get really subjective, and so that's why there's so many different perspectives you can read about morality. But I think that would be a good one for you to read. Sapiens is a really interesting book. Do you like to read?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you should use that to your benefit and read all the things. What's the worst thing that happens? You still believe what you believe now? Okay, cool. But I would encourage you to go ask more questions about all of this. And are you into ChatGPT at all?
Occasionally.
Okay, I do this to practice for other topics, but go in there and debate ChatGPT. I think that's actually a fun exercise as well. And so you can even take some of the things you learn and like go in there and debate those things, or ask ChatGPT to play the other side and you try to play, devil's advocate and all that. But I think there's more here, that if you can let yourself actually get outside of this idea that there must be a God, I think you're actually going to find even more answers than what you think you're finding within this framework of there is a God and it's the Christian God.
Got you. If I could say one thing real quick,
Sure.
just for the like personal reasons, I only just like gave the morality as one aspect of it. Like, there's a bunch of different reasons for why I do believe, so it's not like limited to that. And the only other thing, like, again, I don't think there is any like empirical evidence for it or proof in general. But if we were to go into like the like applicable benefits of it, or the pragmatic benefits of it, I do believe that that is in alignment with reality and with truth, and it doesn't cause harm. And one other thing I was going to say is I've watched like one episode from. Can I say this really quickly?
Sure.
Or did you have something?
It's
like, I've seen one other episode, and I think you were like, if something can, for like the scripture, if something be used as good and bad, it shouldn't be like used at all. But I see it more as like a scalpel, where if you give it to someone who is bad, they can do a bunch of damage with it. But if you give it to a surgeon, it can end up saving like lives. And so that's just my view on it. And I think there are a lot of reasons that it can help somebody out.
I understand, but that was specifically in the context of it being listed as a good reason to believe in it. Something being beneficial alone is not a good reason to believe that it's true. I can believe that I'm gonna make $1 million in super chats tonight, and that would be beneficial to believe, because it would make me really happy, and it would make me do the best job that I've ever done on chewed gum. But then, is it beneficial when we get to the end of the show and I don't actually make $1 million, and now all the online shopping I just did while I was sitting here is racked up on my credit card? Like, that's not helpful. So something being beneficial alone is not a good reason to believe it's true. Because otherwise, I could tell you about my favorite God, which is this glittery pink unicorn. She's invisible, undetectable, but she's real and she's here. And I've had personal experiences. And she wants you to be your best self ever. And anytime you're feeling good, anytime you're doing good things, that's actually her influence on your life, whether you know it or not. I could sit here and tell you about this God, the pink unicorn, and how beneficial it is, and you'd probably agree, yeah, that does sound beneficial, but does that make it true?
So I understand where you're coming from with that thing. I feel like, say if you were to say, like, you have a unicorn concept, there would have to be some type of like not deduction, but reason for you to have like a unicorn form. And so I'm not
I do.
positing any.
Unicorns are depicted throughout history. I mean, if you look at the cave drawings, you can basically see them in there. So they've been really important because I think a lot of people have had personal experiences with the unicorn god.
Touche.
That's what I'm saying, Dominique. I think that there are some things here that I think you're very smart. I love that you love to read. I think you should take advantage of that because I think that I could have just as many, quote, good reasons for believing in my unicorn god, and better, because my unicorn god wrote a perfect Bible that doesn't say love your neighbor as yourself. It says love your neighbor the way they want to be loved. And it also doesn't have owning people as slaves. It also doesn't have rape. It also doesn't have all kinds of other things in it that I think are harmful. And then I have just as many good reasons to believe in that God as you do yours. And I think that you are smarter than that. And so I'm just saying, go read more, go look into this more. The worst thing that happens is you call us back and you have better reasons for believing and you can share them with us. And that's cool. And another thing that could happen is you think, you know what, wait, maybe I don't know about some of these things and I'm going to hold off on forming an opinion until I have better reason.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Anything else before we let you go?
That's all I wanted to talk about for that. And yeah, unless we're talking about like actual relationships or like personal like lives with it, I don't have anything I don't have anything more to add to like the existence aspect of it. But I do think there is a lot to like talk about in like day-to-day life if you guys ever talk about that.
Yeah, call us back sometime, and we'd love that. Alyssa, did you have any questions? Sorry, I like totally took over that conversation.
But... No, it's totally fine. No, I'm good.
Cool. Well, yeah, Dominique, call back sometime. I think that you and Alyssa and whoever is co-hosting with her could have, because I'm about to be gone for a bit, but I think you guys could have some really interesting conversations about the day-to-day life stuff and your reasons for how that's been beneficial for you. And maybe Alyssa might have some perspectives on why she doesn't need those things, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cool. Well, thanks for calling, Dominic. Have a great evening.
Thank you, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ooh. I give you credit for sticking with that because I feel like my eyes glazed over like 3 minutes in and I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. And I knew that I had a feeling that that's what that call was going to be like.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate the use of vocabulary. I appreciate what's happening there, but I think Dominic has a bit further to go. And I also think that when you really understand something and have a grasp on the truth of it, that you can explain it in relatively simple terms, or at least help somebody get to some point. And I think Dominic is still struggling even with that part of explaining like why he thinks these presuppositions, which already are not arguments, are what he considers to be true, you know? So there's more to discover there, but I did appreciate his honesty. And I actually feel like he was being very honest in that conversation.
Yeah, I agree. So. And part of the reason why I was asking him to, I was trying to, I feel the same way that you do, where if you really believe these things and it's like it's something that you fully understand, then you can explain it in a really like simple way and still get the point across. And so I think you're right. I think there's just more that he gets to dig into with what the belief is there so that he has a thorough understanding and he can explain it in ways that are beyond maybe like how it's been presented to him thus far.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think there's a tendency, sorry, I'm trying to plug my iPad in. There's a tendency in these calls, and I understand, especially like if you're calling Forrest or Matt or somebody, there's a tendency to be like, I have to just be right and say the thing and stick to my script and be right about this and present it perfectly. And I think, not that Matt and Forrest don't also, I know, care about this as well. We just want an honest conversation where somebody's answering truthfully. And I want to know that your value is believing stuff that is true, not just what you can present in a package. You know, I want to know, like, is this really something you believe and why do you really believe it? It sounds like to me, there's probably some more personal reasons behind Dominique's belief, which to me is always way more compelling reason for that person to believe. It's not a compelling reason for me to believe. But don't you feel like if somebody tells you, well, don't you understand people more when they believe because of a personal experience than like, well, this, and this argument or presupposition, it's 100%. Not convincing to me, but I get like why they are.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's when people have especially when they call in here and they have a personal experience that they feel very close to, I don't really have an interest in dismantling that for them unless they're really trying to like challenge us. Because it just, I don't know, like if that is what works for you, then that's what works for you. And like, it just doesn't, I don't know. I have no interest in wanting to debate someone's personal experience because we would end up doing that all day and getting nowhere. Right. And like for some people, it's very powerful and it does something for them. So I don't know, whatever. So I agree. Personal experience is at least something where then it at least feels honest. At least you're being honest and it's coming from your own perspective, your own life. And I don't know. Yeah. Look forward to him calling back with more.
Yeah, he was very respectful and overall, I appreciate conversations like that. So I have announcements real quick. Do you want to be picking our next caller while I share those? Tomorrow we have The Hang Up with Matt Dillahunty and a special episode with Daryl Ray from Recovering from Religion. That's going to be great. I wish that I could be watching that, but I'll be getting ready for all my travels. And then Thursday, we have TACIS with Josie and Luxander. Then Friday and Saturday, all day, we are fundraising. And those are going to be really fun episodes. Like Alyssa said, on Friday, she's hosting with a sex educator. Is that right?
I believe so, yeah. I'm waiting for her to confirm, but it'll be a sex educator.
Okay, cool. And I'm actually hosting that day as well. I have a very special guest that I'm also waiting on confirmation from. If not, it'll still be somebody cool, but I'm hoping that he can do it. So we'll see. And that's starting at noon on Friday. So all day Friday, starting at noon, we're going to have calls. And those will be where you can call in and ask questions. And I don't think we're prioritizing theists for those. Those will just be like Q&A, like where you guys get to call in and ask us maybe more personal questions too, like just Q&A style. So that'll be fun. Saturday all day we will have, I think that's also starting at noon, which I will be one of the earlier ones since it'll be later in Finland, and we'll be taking your money for Recovering from Religion. So please keep that in mind this week. They do incredible work. If there is a cause that you're going to donate to this year, I believe that is one of the best places that you can put your money that's going to actively go to good use immediately. So, and that brings us to the Sunday show, which is going to be, am I looking at the right thing? Yes, the 11th. That's going to be with Matt Dillahunty and Paul Enns. And then the Sunday show After Dark, which will be with Forrest and Eric SS. Then Monday, Skeptalk with Forrest Valkai and John Gleason. And then Tuesday, it's Chewed Gum. And I'm so jealous because it's Arden and Alyssa. Can we do an episode with the three of us someday? Because that would be really
Is
fun.
it possible? Can we do that?
I
I would
don't
love
know.
that.
I don't know, but I think it would be great. But yeah,
That would be really fun.
Do you want to bring on our next caller?
Yes. Okay. So let's. Oh, we did get a theist that popped in.
We can let some. We can bring up somebody else first. That's fine.
Okay, so maybe let's bring in Sam, or do we want to take a break from religion for a sec? I don't know. What do we think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we can. Don't worry about prioritizing theists for this one. You pick what sounds good to you.
Okay, so let's pull Sarah in. And this is Sarah Talks podcast from our chat, so I'm excited to talk to Sarah again.
Yay!
Hi, Sarah.
Sarah.
Oh my God, that's
Hello.
true. Hey, this is your first time getting to talk to Promise. This is exciting.
Hello.
I
Thanks for calling.
had to call when Promise was on because I know she's traveling, and I was like, I need to talk to her before she disappears for a while.
Well, thanks for calling. How are you?
First of all, I just wanted to say I cannot believe I'm talking to the best bandicoots. So
I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh my God, you're so funny. Well, I appreciate your support always in the chat and everywhere else. It's really kind, and I'm so happy that you called. What did you want to talk about today?
Thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
So I wanted to talk about, so I am in the LGBT community, and my grandma is religious. I don't know how religious she is, but she tries to get me to go to her church, and I have to be like, no. And I have not come out to her, and I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on how I should navigate this conversation, because she keeps, pushing the boyfriend thing, and I'm like, okay, but what if I bring home a girlfriend, or like a non-binary person, I don't know what the reaction is going to be. So
yeah, well, you really have to decide, because she's a grandmother. I always feel like that's always tough because they won't be around for your whole lifetime, and so I don't know, you have to weigh out how much you really want to share. But if it's important to you that you are honest with her, like you're close with her and you want her to really know who you are, then I think that the best thing that you can do is just kind of come out with it. Even if you're saying it in a way where maybe, you preface it by saying, I want to have a conversation with you, and because I really love and care about you, and it's important to me that you really know who I am, because I love and care about you so much. And so I really want you to do your best to be open and considerate and respectful, and I will always do the same for you. And then you can share however you're identifying. And you can say, sometimes the reason I'm bringing it up to you is because sometimes I do worry when you are bringing up a boyfriend, if you will still be able to be accepting and loving towards me if the person that I bring home is not a boy or, doesn't identify that way. And just see where that conversation goes. I think if you are leading with love and compassion for her and wanting to feel seen by her, that's sort of the best spot you can put yourself in. Promise, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think everything Alyssa's saying is so right on. A big part of this is just you deciding, is that something you want? Do you want to come out to her? Because you're not under obligation to. However, also, it sounds like there is a part of you where it's like, I need some boundaries here because I don't like how these conversations are going. I don't like the expectations that are being put on me. I think that you have two options. I think you can set some boundaries without coming out as well. You can say, hey, this is some topics that I just don't want to get into with you because I enjoy you and I love you for these reasons. And this is just something I feel uncomfortable with. or you can choose that you do want to come out. And do you have reason to believe that she's going to take it badly?
I don't. She's
Okay.
very liberal like I am, so I'm not like, she's not like a Trump person, you know.
Sure.
So I don't have any like direct evidence.
Well,
It's just the church thing that I'm worried about, you know.
totally.
But yeah.
That makes so much sense. Well, I would frame it as something exciting to tell her. And I think you could do a letter, which would give you like a little bit of separation to make things a bit easier, or you can do it in person, whichever you prefer. And just say, you know, I have something, like, because you're somebody I love and trust so much that I'm excited to share with you. And part of the reason I want to share it with you is I need somebody on my team when it comes to things like religion and all of that. And I feel not comfortable with church and all of that, specifically because of X, Y, and Z, and would love to feel like I have somebody on the same page with me and being sensitive to that. But yeah, I would frame it as an exciting thing, because it's part of you. And the only not exciting thing would be if it isn't received well. But it sounds like you have good reason to believe that she just loves you fully and is going to be happy that you trusted her.
Yeah, and I did actually ask this to my mom, because I did come out to my parents like in high school, so this was like almost 10 years ago now. And I just aged myself. Wow. But it's fine. Anyway, but I asked my mom, because this is my mom's mom, and even my mom said she doesn't think it's worth bringing it up. So I'm like, I don't know if that's a concern, that my mom even said to not bring it up. So
yeah,
It could be. Sometimes parents say that because they think, like, I mean, I'll speak anecdotally from like my own experience. Sometimes parents, I think, say that because they're kind of like, they're old, they don't need to know, whatever. And in reality, you know, that's for you to decide. And if you feel like that's something that you want to share, then that's a choice that you get to make. And it sounds like she will probably handle it well, because she is a little more on the liberal side, as you said. And if she loves and cares about you, even if she needs to take a little bit of space maybe to process, sometimes parents need that, or just people in our lives that love us need space to just, you know, process what you've shared, because it is, I remember when I told my mom that I'm bisexual, her response was that she was totally fine. And she also, you know, part of her processing was she didn't realize how much she imagined what my future was going to look like until I provided information to her that shifted what that could potentially look like. And so for her, it was kind of like, it was processing that she didn't even realize how much she had pictured what my future would be. And so now she's sort of like adjusting. And so it could be something like that. But I think that your grandmother's likely going to be fine, especially if your mom was fine. And your grandmother is a little more liberal. I think she'll be just fine.
Yeah, I'm hopeful, and I'm just glad that I called and got some advice, because I think I kind of knew what to do, but I just wanted to hear it from neutral parties.
Yeah,
you know,
I feel you on that. Well, that is what we're here for. Thanks so much for calling, Sarah, and please keep us updated. But really proud of you and happy for you.
Thank you, and have a great, safe trip, promise, and hopefully there's no tinkle bells or whatever the name is.
Yes. We'll find out. I'll send Alyssa pictures if there are, and she can make a little cameo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please do.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah, for calling.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
So sweet.
Oh, yay. We love Sarah.
Love that. I'm so glad we finally got to talk.
I know, right before you leave us.
I know. Your voice is so cute. I know you're losing it and then that's not fun, but it sounds really cute. So
Does it sound like sexy and raspy?
It
Maybe
does.
that's the vibe I'm providing. It's
Yeah.
really a post-nasal drip and mucus, but I'm glad that it's coming off cute and sexy.
It's definitely working, especially through the screen. This is perfect.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. Should we talk to Sam real quick?
Yes, let's do it.
Cool.
Hello?
Hey, hi Sam. You're on Chewed Gum
Hi,
with
Sam.
Promise and Alyssa.
Yeah, so I called in a few months ago. I'm an agnostic deist, and I'm the Marxist guy, if you remember.
Oh, I remember you
Oh.
being in the chat last week, maybe, and you were trying to get through. Is that right?
Yeah. So I haven't
Okay.
called in for a few months, and I've been trying to reach for a few months, but I wasn't able to. So I don't know how this is going to go.
Well, let's
Well,
see. What are we calling for?
Okay. So if the screener sent the title is "Religion is Necessary."
Yep. Tell us why. And tell us which religion.
Well,
And tell us what religion
well, first
is.
of all, okay, so there's a lot to say, and so I will say this: it's I don't care what religion someone's a part of. I'm not a part of any religion, as long as they believe in a higher power, as long as they believe in anything spiritual. So it's not a specific religion. It's any
What if
religion.
they believe in a religion with a higher power that tells them that they should kill people once a week for blood sacrifice?
Well, I mean, there are exceptions to everything, but like what I'll say is on that. I mean, me personally, like human sacrifice, the Aztecs did. In that specific circumstance, I would say I don't care what their religion says. I think they shouldn't be allowed to do that.
So do you care more that people believe something that is true or that people believe religion?
Well, this might be a longer call, but I would say, actually, I was going to get to that, but this is going to be controversial. But even if, like, that's hypothetically religion is not true, my goal is the utility of religion. So even if it's not true, I still think people should live their lives as if it is true.
It'll probably be a very short call if that's your argument, but we can have that conversation.
We can have a conversation.
Because as I just pointed out, so I'm an atheist. I live my life without religion, and I don't commit blood sacrifice once a week. But you're saying it would be better that I believe a God exists and potentially cause harm in the name of that religion, than to instead focus on what I think is true or not. I'm asking specific questions. So there's not a lot to unpack. It's just, Sam, if you interrupt me, I'm going to just go ahead and end the call because we're already toward the end of the night. Okay. So there's not a lot to unpack. It's just that each questions that we ask you, you just have to answer them. We don't have to unpack a lot. Just answer the questions.
Okay, I'll answer the question. Well, first of all, there's you're just picking like the worst case scenario someone can believe in. And I'm saying in most cases, if it helps, I'll add the qualifier, as long as they believe in a religion that doesn't directly harm people.
Okay, I think
I could
most
argue
religions
that all
directly harm.
religions. Yeah.
Okay, so, and also, I guess Marxism has a view of religion, but because you said some things about Marxism last time, I think you may have some misconceptions about it, but most Marxists are atheists, and I happen to be one that's not an atheist.
I don't know which of us you're talking to right now. I haven't said anything about Marxism ever on air, but my apologies. It was you, Promise. And let me ask you a question. I've never talked about Marxism on air, so I'm very sure of this. But but Sam, are we going to answer the questions, or did you want to just call in about Marxism?
Well, it was mostly about religion, but part of it a little bit about Marxism. But with religion, like I said, my answer to your question, which is, as long as the religion doesn't directly harm people, I have no problem if they
Who
if they believe in it.
decides what is harmful and what isn't?
Well, I mean, there's objective ways you can measure harm, like whether someone dies because of it or whether someone is injured because of it and stuff. But if you're talking about in an abstract way that it harms people, then we can have that discussion.
But what if somebody believes that there is a God that says it is not harmful to kill people? They go straight to heaven, and it's the best thing you can do is to kill people because it sends them to heaven. And therefore, you're actually helping them versus harming them.
Okay, like I said, if we're talking about real physical harm, I'm willing to make an exception to that. That's my answer.
So
What
you're
about
basically
psychological?
I'm not an absolutist. Are you there?
Alyssa, you
Yes.
cut out for a second. What did you say?
I said, what about psychological harm?
Psychological harm. Well, I would say that is kind of subjective.
No, actually, we can measure a lot of that. But I'm really concerned. Is your method for determining whether a religion should be followed, whether it's harmful or not, or whether it's true or not? Because I only want to believe things and follow things that are true. I do not want to believe lies, and I do not want to participate in things that are not based in reality.
Oh, okay. Well,
So
probably it's not
because
toward
to
you.
me, so far, what we've heard is, well, if I say I think something is harmful, then you shouldn't practice it. But if I say I think a religion is good, then you should practice it. And that's not a good reason.
Make an argument. Okay, let me make an argument against atheism. No,
Sam. Do you know what the best argument against atheism would be? Evidence that there are any gods that exist and a reason to believe. So there's don't make an argument against atheism. That's like making an argument against a shadow or something. Like atheism is just a lack of belief. So instead, tell me. No, I just want you to answer the questions. Tell me why we should believe that a God exists, because the only reason I would ever participate in religion is if a God exists.
Okay, well, first of all, when it comes to me, there's a difference between knowing if there's a God and believing in a God. And I think there's a strong chance and a strong probability that there's a God. Therefore, I believe, but I admit that I don't know for sure. That's why I'm an agnostic deist.
Cool. I'm an agnostic atheist, so we're halfway there. Why should we practice religion if we don't know that it's 100% true? When I can just live my life as an atheist and practice secular humanism and not have to believe things that are potentially untrue.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. Well, there's a lot of reasons. Well, when it comes, I think atheism, in my opinion, inevitably leads to nihilism, and nihilism leads to apathy.
Sam, I just said that we're not going to do the atheism argument because this is what's going to end the call. It doesn't lead. I know more atheists that are not nihilists than atheists that are. So that already is not a helpful argument. So just because you don't like something, just because you don't like the philosophy of it, just because you don't like the outcome of it, doesn't make it true or not. And I've let you know that our standard is something that's true or not. So I need to understand why we should practice this when you've just asserted things that aren't true so far. Atheism does not lead to nihilism. And even if somebody is nihilistic, that doesn't necessarily equal harm. I'm actually very nihilistic. By the way, guys, I have a new album coming out called Contemplations for Nihilists. But here's the thing. I don't cause harm. In fact, I like to think that I'm actively working to reduce harm.
Okay. Well, first of all, I know you don't want to talk about the atheism thing, but when it comes to nihilism, you and also the other guy, I forgot his name. He's a biologist, whatever his name is. He was on the show.
You don't want to do this, Sam.
Okay, but last thing I'll say about this is that you and Forrest are examples of how atheism leads to nihilism. And second of all, I think I fundamentally disagree that nihilism is not harmful. I actually think nihilism is more
Tell me
dangerous than religious
what harm
extremism.
what harm am I causing?
The harm, I mean, you as a person, you may be a good person, but overall nihilist, it's the belief system, which is that there's no objective morality and all morality
Because
is
Sam,
arbitrary.
there isn't. But Sam, there isn't objective morality. That doesn't mean that you cannot practice an objective within a moral framework, but there is no objective morality. You would have to prove that there's an objective source for that morality. This is why I'm telling you the way that you're going about this conversation is not, we're just going to have to move on soon, because you trying to like sneak around back to atheism, it's a lack of belief. So the best way for you to argue against atheism is to prove that I have reason to believe a God exists.
Okay, well, with me, like I said before, I don't know for sure that God exists. I just think there's a high possibility. And one of the arguments I would use is, I guess what's the cosmological argument, that everything has a beginning and something can't come from nothing.
How do you know that everything has a beginning? And if that's the case, then why does this God not have a beginning?
Okay, well, first of all, the creator, or whatever you want to call this being, is beyond space and time.
How do you know that? Why can't the universe have part of itself that's beyond space and time, and it created itself? Or why can't the universe have always existed in some form or another?
Okay, so I just think it's not the same with the universe, because this being is more powerful than the universe.
How do you know that? Why is there a being? Why do we think there's a being? You're just asserting.
You keep saying no.
Because you're just presupposing something.
I'm
Sam,
saying I think there's a strong possibility.
We're more interested in what is the truth. There's a strong possibility that every time I get into a car, I'll get into a car accident and I still get into a car. It's like, I don't know, if we're talking about strong possibilities, that doesn't mean truth. Those are not the same.
You're looking for certainty. That's the problem.
No. We're just looking for truth, Sam. I'm not going to believe in an entire God if I don't have a good reason to. In that case, you should believe in my pink unicorn. She's the best God that anybody could ever presuppose, and I don't know why you don't believe in her.
Because there are some beings that are more believable than others.
She is the most believable by far.
Well, I mean, I know you don't believe in like the testimonies of the Bible and about a God and stuff, but there's way more evidence that there's a possibility that
Absolutely
there is a greater God.
If we go to an elementary school right now and talk to the little girls there about pink sparkly unicorns, I'm telling you, more of them believe in the pink sparkly unicorn goddess that I know than believe in God. So those testimonies to me are more relevant because they're here and now, and they're not like made up 2,000 years ago.
Okay, I apologize for being difficult in this call, but I'm not trying to. But so the thing is, it's ultimately the reason why I think people should believe in religion is because of the utility of it. That's fundamentally why.
I don't think there's any utility to it. And I don't think that that's a good reason to believe in something, because there's more utility to believing in my pink unicorn goddess than there is to believing in any of your religions. So.
Okay, about religious extremism, I know you're against that, but are you against extremism overall, like religious extremism, political extremism?
You'd have to define what those things are in that context. I'm against people causing harm to others.
Okay. I'm sure you would agree that extremism mostly causes harm to others.
Unless it's extreme kindness, and then not really.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right about that. But I would say that when it comes to religious extremism, because we're talking about religion, I would consider you the mere opposite of that, which is an atheist extremist, someone who is an absolutist in their atheism.
Sam, did you hear what I said at the beginning of this call about me being an agnostic atheist?
Well, I mean, what you say and everything, it seems that when it comes to your opposition toward religion, because that's what you say, you're against religion, that you have an absolutist view against religion. Like religion, you see, in my opinion, it seems that you think religion is always bad.
I think religion is more bad than it is good, and therefore it's not helpful and it's not beneficial to society. I don't think that we need it. Do I think that some people it ends up helping them? Yeah, I think so. Do I think that they could get the help that they receive from religion from better and more real sources? Yes, absolutely. There is nothing religion offers that is good that the real world doesn't offer, and oftentimes better.
Okay. I'm sorry if I'm interrupting, but I would say, what about people who are religious, who like someone who was addicted to drugs and they became religious, and then they're no longer drug addicts? Like that, even if you don't believe in religion, like that shows a utility.
No, because then what happens if they someday have doubt in their faith and they think, oh my God, I don't think there is a God, and they start doing drugs again?
I mean, I don't think that happens all the time. That might be rare, but when it comes
all
to
the time,
religion,
I hear from people with that issue weekly, and I refer them to the Sober Coach, who's amazing and an atheist, and there's other organizations that offer rehab services that are not linked to religion because of that being an issue. You're replacing one addiction with another. But I want to give Alyssa a chance. I want to give Alyssa a chance to ask you some questions before we move on, because I think that we're just so all over the place, and maybe Alyssa can wrap this up for us.
My main thing is that I think where we're losing the plot with comparing atheism and theism is by making it sound like we're choosing into atheism out of spite or hatred or whatever. It's out of what is true and what we have, based on all of the information that we have. So I think where we find positivity and safety and consolation in atheism is knowing that there's no hole to poke in atheism. There's nothing to no rug you could pull out from under me in it. It just is what is true. I don't have to actually defend atheism. Like it just is. And to jump through hoops to defend these religions, to say that they're beneficial when there are plenty of ways to support somebody who's an addict, support somebody who's going through a tough time mental health wise. Like there's a reason why in most therapy practices, they're not going to talk about religion, because there's a way to approach all of that has nothing to do with it. Like we have found so many ways to create healthy, functional societies that don't depend on religion. So to feel the need to defend it so intensely, I would really need proof, not only that it's true, but that it's really that beneficial. Because over and over again, the line has existed as a community. Like this community of content creators have existed on the internet for years, and none of us have been convinced otherwise. And many continue to say, even if you do show me that there is a God and that is true, you would have to do an entire other song and dance to show me that this is a good person. So I don't know. I don't really think there is benefit in it.
Alyssa, what I would say, since you were talking about atheism, or using the word atheism, I would say that atheism, the definition of it is simply that the belief that there's no God or gods.
Nope, that's not the definition of atheism, Sam. It is a disbelief in the existence of
disbelief.
gods. Yep, disbelief.
Okay.
It is not a positive claim.
Yeah.
Some atheists make positive claims. I don't really know any of those, Most of us just simply don't believe in a God. Like I don't believe in all kinds of other things. Yep.
Okay, a disbelief. Probably I worded that wrongly. Okay, it's the definition is that it's a disbelief of any gods or gods. And what I'm saying is that's actually not unique to atheism. Buddhism doesn't believe in a creator god or any gods. So by that definition, Buddhism would be atheist.
Yes, a lot of my Buddhist friends are atheists. They practice non-theistic religion.
Okay, so I have to go in a few minutes, but to wrap things up, what I would say is my disagreements with non-belief or whatever you want to call it, is that one, I do think it inevitably leads to nihilism. I think it's the logical conclusion of non-belief, and also I think it doesn't have any objective morality. And by the way, even if people could derive some benefit, not from religion, from like non-religious things, I fundamentally don't think it's good enough. I don't think it's sufficient enough. I just think religion is better for that.
I don't know if Alyssa has any more questions. So far, I still just heard you saying, I don't think, or this or that, but you didn't give me reason to why I should believe you. So, yeah, I don't know. It sounds mostly... Alyssa's muted. Hang on. Let me let her ask what she was.
I agree. And I think that we could go back and forth anecdotally and find ways where religion has been helpful and not helpful to people. I can also find, we could find statistics to show that religion is helpful and not helpful to people too. I mean, people are welcome to believe the things that they want to believe and whatever, but I don't think that any part of what you've brought to the call today has swayed anyone. I don't think.
Alyssa,
I think
Alyssa, in my opinion, it seems that both of you are looking for certainty. That's what it seems like.
No, Sam, we're looking for truth, because here's the problem. Just like what Alyssa just said, you can sit here and tell us about some amazing theists that have done great things and how theism was a helpful thing. And then we can tell you about some atheists that have done amazing things and have been, helpful throughout history. And then we can tell you about some religious people that have caused immense amounts of harm in the name of religion, using religion as their excuse to do so. And then you can tell us about some atheists that have caused immense amounts of harm and used atheism as their excuse to do so. So we can go back and forth. So you know what I decide to prioritize? Truth. I want to believe things that are true. I don't want to believe things that are not true, because you can cause harm either way. So I would like to
last thing I'm gonna
not... Sam, are you even listening to us?
Okay, sorry, continue.
I'm going to just let you finish, because I'm not going to keep talking if you're not listening. So what's your last thing, and then we'll move on.
Okay. Well, first of all, one question is, first of all, I have a habit of interrupting. I apologize for that. But do you think I can call in next time? That's my first question.
You can call in anytime. I don't think your issue is the interrupting. I think it's that you need to be listening instead of thinking of what you're going to say next.
Okay. Now, the final thing I'm going to say is, I know that you say you're looking for truth and stuff, but I'm kind of a consequentialist for the most part, and I believe that, if revealing the truth leads to negative outcomes, then I don't think revealing the truth is a good thing, in my opinion. So I don't believe, me personally, I don't believe... look, truth is important. I admit it, it's important, but it's for me, it's not the highest good. That's just a fundamental disagreement.
I don't think it's the highest good either. I think it's my best bet at figuring out what reality is, and then I can determine what I think is good within the confines of reality. So we have to start somewhere, though, and I like to build my foundation of living on things that are true. So you are welcome to call back. You can call Matt tomorrow night if you want. He has his show, and you can ask him
Ooh,
about
you
this.
should. You should talk to Matt.
Well,
I
first
think
of
that would be
all,
a really interesting
I'm not gonna-
conversation.
No offense. Sorry, no offense. But you know, and he has a bad temper. I kind of think he's an asshole, to be honest.
Honestly, if you told him
he's-
that, he would probably agree with you.
He's been
Yeah,
doing
so I'm
this
not
for
gonna
so
talk
many
with him.
years, and he's dealt with people calling in and being dishonest and not answering his questions or interrupting or not listening or all of those things. So I get it. And but he's also extremely brilliant. And I think if you were to call and you were to present your argument succinctly and explain what you think, then you're going to get a real response from him, and that might be beneficial to you. Also, you've got Forrest on Sunday night you can call, and he's he's a bit more on the friendly side, but he is a nihilist, so be careful.
I think also
so-
with Matt, he also, like Promise said, just to echo that, I've seen him take phone calls and be extremely calm and extremely kind. It really is in the way that you approach it. And so if you are to have a conversation with Matt, if you do so and you are listening to his responses and really being thoughtful about how you reply to him, you're not going to get the side of Matt that you are concerned about.
I'm glad we have this conversation. It was fun.
Good. I'm so glad.
Thanks for calling, Sam. You
All right.
can call back.
Goodbye.
Okay, bye.
Okay.
I don't know how I feel about that call at all.
I don't know either. But do you want to know what I made while you were on it?
Yeah. Oh my God. Will you send that to me? Guys, do we need merch?
Absolutely will. I literally, if all we have to do is like throw it up on Fourth Wall, I think we need to do it. That's so easy.
For sure. Oh man, that's amazing.
It's gorgeous.
We have one last call to get to, and then we will take super chats of $5 or more. So let's talk to Giddy. And this sounds like a question for Alyssa. Hey Giddy, how are you doing? You're live on Chewed Gum.
Hi, how I'm doing? I'm still anxious from an autism evaluation I just got back from.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry you're feeling anxious.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's I'm still waiting for the results, but they did diagnose me as gay. They weren't even testing for that. But yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you have the testing part behind you, though. There's got to be a little bit of a relief to that part.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, this is a question for Alyssa. Basically, so growing up Mormon as I did, I had believed that sexual content, even non-nude sexual content, would lead to more and more like misogynistic and objectifying content, which would influence my behavior toward women and sex. I no longer believe in like that demonization of pornography and stuff. Am I allowed to say that, or should I censor myself?
You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, you can say whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I no longer believe in the demonization of those tutorials, I guess I'll say. But I'm starting to think that they had a point. They're about being exposed to potential harmful ideas and gender roles presented in porn, regardless of if that porn is produced ethically. So I guess I would example it as like I like, consuming that kind of content, but I feel myself adhering to harmful gender roles such as like a distaste for body hair on women, and this it seems objectifying women is inherently baked into it, and I'm just I'm worried about that, and that I'm worried about that being harmful and leading on to more harm.
Well, there are there are sources of ethically made porn that most of the time when porn is made in this like ethical environment, many of the places that produce that type of content are also considerate of including actors who have a lot of different body types, many that have body hair, including some that are trans or non-binary or non-gender conforming, and like really having a diverse cast, I guess, for lack of a better term for the group of them, entertainers. So I think if you are interested in consuming porn and you want to make an effort to find content that is not going to encourage that of you, I would look for content on websites like Cheeks. That's the one that Promise and we both talk about Cheeks all the time. It genuinely, truly, like, if I could swear on a Bible and it mean anything to this community, I would. Like, I swear that is the only adult entertainment I have used in, I think it's like 3 years. And I have never looked back. I think it is so worth every single cent. There are information on there that is, and Promise, you have an active code for Cheeks. I have one somewhere. I just don't know if it's active anymore, and I don't know what it is. But what do you remember what your code is?
My code is Eve, EVE, and you get a free 7-day trial. But I'll be partnered with them all summer, so that will be available. That's how much I believe in what they do, because I share your concerns, Giddy. I do. And real quick, Alyssa, before you finish all that, I was just going to point out also these things you're talking about as far as like even how it makes you look at unwanted body hair and all of that. Mm-hmm. We're getting that messaging all the time, no matter what, not just from pornography. In fact, the adult content that I consume is actually the least constrained to like what society expects from the male gaze, you know? So just want to point that out too, that this is a problem outside of pornography, but continue.
It totally is. And like, I think watching pornography and seeing the sexualization of all different kinds of bodies in a way that is safe and is consensual, and it's oftentimes done in a way where, I don't know, there are times where if you kind of are like a homepage scroller on Pornhub, sometimes it just looks like no one's having a good time and everyone was forced to be there, and it just like it's not giving. And once you have spent enough time with truly ethically made, diverse adult entertainment, it's really hard to go back. So that would be my suggestion. And pornography can be a helpful tool in some ways. There are even on Cheeks, there's even a section of them for a section of like instructional videos. So if you really genuinely wanted education, that is actually available on Cheeks also. And they're also a German-based company. So I think that in general, that just creates a different standard of like bodies that we're looking at too. It's just like different than like, I mean, we're in the US and it all is kind of the same. And yeah, I don't know, like I've seen people on Cheeks that are non-gender conforming, that are plus size, that are like, there are some that look like, blonde, skinny type people too. There's everything, and it's awesome. So that's what I would say. Yeah, but I think porn can be really helpful and really fun.
Well, I mean, I'm inclined to agree, but no, I guess. So I know that I'm things like problematic of just like the pressure to have be clean shaven and all that stuff. But I also kind of like, on the other hand, I'm like, isn't such things like shaving body hair off, just seen as a as a part of sexual presentation, kind of like lingerie, and like I don't see why. Like part of me is also like that's actually not a problem as well, and I don't know. I'm flip flopping back and forth here.
Yeah, I mean it's preference. People can decide whatever they want to do. I mean, body hair does serve a purpose. I'll say that. It helps to protect sensitive areas on our body from germs and bacteria. So it serves a purpose, but there are plenty of people who prefer not to have any body hair at all, and that's totally fine. And there are people who don't ever want to shave, wax, pluck a thing on their body, and that's also totally fine. And also, you're allowed to have preferences in the type of partners that you want to have and in the type of pornography that you want to consume. Like you're allowed to have those preferences, and it doesn't make you a bad person. But it also is helpful, I think, to normalize feeling attracted to or experiencing sexuality with people who look different. I think it has helped me grow in so many ways. And actually, so as part of my certification, they have you do this weekend-long training. It's called a sexual attitude readjustment. And every sex therapist, counselor, educator, we all have to go through an SAR. And the SAR weekend, you literally spend, I think it's 2 full days watching all different kinds of pornography. And you do that with other certified sex therapists in this group. And this was like kind of at the tail end of COVID when I had done my SAR. So they were doing them virtually. I don't know if they still are. And so we're in the Zoom room, I guess. And we're all just sitting there watching porn for 2 days straight. I'm like, oh God, my parents are walking by the door and they're like, are you sure you're learning? But what the purpose is to expose you to all of these different types of sex with different people with disabilities, elderly, like we watched everything. And the purpose is so that when we have clients that want to have conversations with us about sexuality or sexual practices or activities that are consensual and safe and appropriate for the people involved, we're able to do that without the bias of thinking that it's gross or thinking that it's weird or whatever. And so we put ourselves in that like 2-day long readjustment period so that we could do that with trained professionals. And in a way, I think by exposing yourself to adult entertainment that has diverse bodies, that has different body hair, that has different gender identities, different styles of sex, and just like dipping a toe in the water, I think you're microdosing a sexual attitude readjustment for yourself and just broadening what might be available for you and types of people that you might be attracted to or activities that you might want to try.
See, I think I've kind of done that, but it just ultimately ends up with, I don't like this. I'm going to go back to the general stereotypical things that have some harmful, my preferences. I think it emboldens that selection bias. But
you're
maybe
allowed
I'm just not doing it right.
You're allowed to have promises or preferences. Promises. You're allowed to have preferences, especially when it comes to adult entertainment. Like there are people who, what they watch in their pornography is nothing like what they want to practice in real life and is nothing like what their preferences are in real life. But they just want to, like, the number one category for straight women to watch is girl on girl pornography. And that doesn't mean that they're interested in doing that. But it's interesting to watch. It's sexually arousing. And so you're allowed to have preferences.
Okay. So this is just exposure therapy for porn then, is what you're saying?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
And I think at the end of the day, what's important to remember is if you start having, adverse side effects, or if you don't like how your sexuality is playing out in real life or your relationship to pornography, that is when you can, that's what people like Alyssa, that's why she does the work that she does. So people can have coaching moments with her and can book sessions and then specifically talk about those issues and how to, like, what changes maybe to make. Just like with a therapist, like if I have some kind of emotional situation that I want to deal with, or some sort of trauma or whatever, and I don't like how it's playing out in my real life, or like an anxiety, then I can go meet with a professional to kind of address that with somebody who knows how to help me target that specific thing. So I think it's great that you're aware. It's great that you want to reduce harm in your life, or pay attention to what you're consuming and all of that. And I think the only time to worry is if you're having adverse, I don't know what the word would be for this. Like if you don't like how that's playing out in your life, and then that's when you can find somebody to help you target that specifically. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I guess if I have one last question, which I technically asked at the beginning, do I have enough time for that?
Yeah,
totally.
Okay, so I guess ultimately, were the Mormons, like, in addition to everything you said, were the Mormons still kind of right about how porn can lead you to more graphic and misogynistic porn, or is that just an overblown fear-mongering tactic?
There is no research to show that that's true. That the type of porn that you watch is an indication of actions that you'll take in real life. So it's an exaggeration.
I more meant, like, if you were watching like something that emboldened gender stereotypes, that it would lead you to more graphic and demeaning to women, kind of like snowballing of the type of content, not the actions you take. But,
I think it no more than any other type of media would. And you would be surprised at the type of pornography that people consume and how different it is from what their day-to-day lives are like. And a good example of how that might how we might see that play out is there was this massive survey. It was the biggest survey on sexuality that has been done thus far, and it was done I want to say it was like 4 or 5 years ago. And in that, and I brought this up on the show before, but in this survey, they found that people who are registered as Republicans are more likely to have sexual fantasies that have to do with infidelity, that have to do with group sex, that have to do with non-traditional ideologies that are really, really against what conservative folks typically believe in. What we enjoy in sexuality is taboo. Like a lot of the times what we want to watch is something so different than what we actually want to practice in real life. So yeah, I would say that if you are consuming types of pornography and they kind of play into gender roles, I think it's probably not that much different than any other kind of media that we consume that does exactly the same thing. But in reality, people don't really want to watch, like, this is in a moment where they're watching adult entertainment, they want to like live in the fantasy, which means that they don't really want to, they're not trying to watch something that's very similar to their real life a lot of the time.
Well, I guess that makes sense. Yeah. No, that totally makes sense, especially that taboo thing, because, like, I watch a lot of gay porn and I'm not gay. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not.
It happens a lot.
But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, no, I'll be thinking on that. I guess that's about it. I'm probably gonna go look into it and go watch a couple of some more coitus documentaries about it. Just yeah,
I
that's
love
about
it.
it.
Check out Cheeks. They also have like tutorials and master classes and all kinds of other stuff too. It's
It's
not
cool.
just like they have actual education on there, which is why I partner with them. So, well, thanks so much
Yeah.
for calling, Giddy. Hope you have a great evening.
Thanks, Giddy.
All right. Bye.
That was our last call for the evening, and now we're gonna get through our super chats before I go try to pack up my life and dye my hair and do my nails. And I feel like I have other things I have to do. Literally, while we were talking, I remember that I emailed Cheeks about something, so I was like, "Oh, let me do that real quick."
Oh my God. You have a night ahead of you.
It'll be great. $5 from Zurith Moonpaw. What's your most hated femme character trope? Most loved. Who's the most badass woman in fantasy and sci-fi? Love you, ladies. Y'all are always awesome. Thank you, Zurith. Oh gosh.
Most hated femme character trope is I read this a lot in like rom-com books where it's like the girl who is super hot but like also skateboards, but also like it's like the male gaze like cringe nightmare, and I just can't take it. Can't do it. Most loved. I don't know. Most loved trope? I don't know. I'd have to think about that. Most badass woman in fantasy and sci-fi. I don't know how, like, I would be inclined to say maybe someone in the Lord of the Rings universe, because I think that they operate pretty independently from the men in the movie. Like, they have their own roles, which I think is very cool. Yeah, I think that would be my answers.
I'd agree with that.
Anything you'd like to add?
I feel like I hate the trope also of the manic pixie, like where she's just like so messed up and has all this stuff, and she's just like so emotionally volatile, but then she's also just like super cool and like needs saving and all this stuff, and she's just existing to teach a man a lesson, basically. That is so annoying because I think humans are deeply complex in general. I don't think that there's like, we're all manic pixies when we're being honest. You know, it looks different for each of us, but to kind of reduce a woman down to like existing just to teach a man something is so annoying. I do end up loving those movies just because of the visual aspects of them, because they're usually like really cool filters and stuff, and it's always like Natalie Portman or Kate Winslet or somebody. But anyways.
$2 Canadian from Quantum Chaos. I wrote a big, long, pun-filled super chat about you leaving for Europe with things about promising to stay safe, etc. It was awesome, and then it failed to go through and my YouTube crashed. So have fun or whatever, I guess.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. Well, the intention was there and the work apparently. So sorry, but thank you. $10 from Ashley Webb. I produce male LVL testosterone and also produce female LVL. Am I saying that? LVL estrogen that behaves like it is on a cycle. Thank you. Wow. That behaves like it is on a cycle. My existence proves there is more than men or women, and religion is a scam. Yes. Yeah. Also, go watch Arden's talk about. She specifically was addressing transphobia in the secular community, but she gets into a little bit of that stuff too, and it's so good if you guys haven't heard it yet. But yes.
Oh my God, the water just splashed up into my eye. I'm always shocked when it does that. Like, such a small part of my face, and that's how it's just amazing. Okay, $5 from Alyssa on a silver bow. What happens when you wear a watch on a plane? Time flies. Bon voyage, promise safe travels. Say hi to Tinkle Bell.
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys. $5 from Bobby Kinniston. Want to ask Alyssa and Promise, do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say, I really do think you're strong enough. Yes.
Always.
There was an episode Paul and I did together where we were like debating whether love exists with this guy. And
oh God.
he kept saying like, you don't believe in love. You don't believe in love. And then I really wanted to break out in song. So
I wish you did. That's awesome. Thank you, Bobby. $5 from Firebird XX. Hi, ladies. What do you think is the biggest barrier between men and women? Communication. Always.
I agree, because that tends to be the biggest barrier between anybody, I think, just like humans in general. But yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
And I
People
think
don't know how to talk
prejudices,
to each other. Mhm.
right, which communication is what defeats the prejudice, is like when you actually get to talk to somebody. So that's a good answer, Alyssa. I like that. $5 from Quantum Chaos. On behalf of quantum nerds everywhere, I would like to say Dominique does not represent us. Also, dude does not understand emergence. Yeah, I think that, not that I understand a lot of that, but I understand enough to know that it sounds like Dominique's coming from a place where he's reading a lot and he's excited about the things that he's hearing because they back up something he already believed. I don't believe that he reached those conclusions from what he read. I think he found things to read that match his conclusions. So, but we'll see. Maybe he'll call back. We'll talk more.
Yeah. Also, someone in the chat, Chuck McFarland, said Southern Republicans like brother on sister porn. And it just reminded me that there's a map, I think from when Pornhub had done analytics of like who's watching what porn where. And the vast majority of the trans porn that is consumed is in red states. So unbelievable. $5 from Firebird XX. Is the period a taboo topic men don't have to engage in? If you're a single father of a daughter, I think that's necessary, but is there a bias? I mean, I think it is a taboo topic, but it should be one that men engage in because it's a part of procreation. It's a part of life. It's a part of the experiences of half of our population. And it would be nice to have allies in that, like the fact that we pay the pink tax and that period products are as expensive as they are, and that they are not like nearly as tested as they should be. There's a lot there, and it would be nice to have some allies in that, and we can't really like do that if they know nothing about it.
Yeah, and it's like for a lot of women, it impacts your life more days than it doesn't, as far as like the cycle that you go through and everything. And I think if you care about the women that are in your life, whether romantically or not, then you want to be at least a little bit educated on how they're impacted and like their physical well-being and all of that. So I think it's a conversation that everybody should know something about.
Yeah.
And it's also, to me, and maybe this is a me problem, I find myself annoyed when I feel like I have to apologize. Like, I want to be able to just grab a tampon and go to the bathroom, or like take my purse and not feel like I have to be like so discreet. Or like if I have really bad cramps that day, luckily I have the type of friends where I can just say that. Like I can be like we can all be on the podcast and tell Jimmy like we're sitting here dying of cramps, or but I do have some friends that are not that close of friends, and this probably is not completely unrelated. I don't feel like I can say that because they're going to be like, oh yeah, sorry, weird, uncomfortable. And it's like, okay, I'm not sitting here like describing clots to you, but also I should be able to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like it's for something that we deal with literally every few weeks. Grow up.
Yeah. Yes. There we go. Grow up. That's the way to say it. $5 from the Raven 200. To celebrate finishing this semester in my Native American literature class, Jimmy, go get stuck in a lecture from Opal Viola Victoria Bear Shield. Super
nice.
Cool. Congrats on finishing your semester.
Yeah, congratulations. $20 from Bobby Keniston. That's very generous. Thank you. Hubba Bubba, Juicy Fruit, Bubblicious, Big League Chew, Double Mint, good for twins. Big Red Cinnamon, Double Bubble Cavity, Freedent is sugar-free, Wintergreen, Dentine, Promise Gonna Miss You Queen. We didn't chew the gum. Oh, it's like we didn't start the fire. Oh my God, that's amazing.
That's really
so
brilliant.
good.
That's really
That is
good.
so good.
Thanks, Bobby.
Oh, amazing. That was great.
$10 from Invader Tim, chipping in for that $1 million for a promise. I hope you have a great vacation. Thanks, Tim. And I will just remind you guys, I am not going on vacation. I like keep talking about this so that people don't get weirded out when they're like, when are you coming back? I don't know when I'm coming back. I mean, I'll be back on Ljub at some point once I get my schedule sorted, but I'm in Finland, like living life. So I'm still working full. I'm still doing all the things. So no vacation, but still excited to be there.
$10 from Dade Murphy. Hashtag, excuse me, this is a spiritual $1 million super chat from existing in $10 form. Praise Doug. Oh, I love it.
That's amazing. Awesome. Thanks, Dade. I guess I just have to believe and have faith that it is. $10 from President Starscream. I'm pretty confident both of you will do the best job you can on the show, even with only $10 of super chats. All hail the pink unicorn. Yes, the pink unicorn gives me strength to do my best every week.
Yes.
Thank you.
£5 from Mystic Minds and Alice's Tavern. I'm feeling a bit emotionally raw tonight, perks of being a hyper empath, but I just want to say thanks for the hosts for the enlightening conversations. That was me last week. Oh my God. Emotionally raw was exactly how I felt. So I hope that you are able to get yourself in a place that feels a little more comfortable, because that's tough. Virtual hugs.
Yes. 666 from Corey Springer. Thank you for making that easy for me.
Love it. £5 from Ian Roche. I took advice from Chewed Gum and TACIS, found some ACE community on the Avon forums. They have meetup groups and Discord. First meet Saturday in, I don't know what TTRPG Cafe is,
Tabletop RPG.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Nice.
That is so great. I'm so happy for you.
Love that. And I love that you're taking initiative to like go put yourself out there in that way to find community. So amazing. Hope it goes well.
You have to let us know how it goes. That's awesome.
$5 from Sarah Talks Podcast. As I say in my outro for videos, don't forget to be a good bandicoot because Crash is watching. Much love and thank you both. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for calling.
Thanks, Sarah. $19.99 from Arthur Buffalo. OM ladies, I have 3 daughters and can't understand why any father would want daughters to be subjugated to any man is crazy. So many men who call you guys are so misogynist and dishonest about their beliefs. Yeah.
I think,
but we're lucky. We have some that are nice too.
I think tonight was fine.
I
wasn't getting anything crazy. I mean, I didn't get any convincing arguments either, but I didn't. Everyone was nice. I'm remembering incorrectly. Everybody was really nice.
Yeah, I agree.
$20 from Becky Sparks. I tried to force myself to believe in God and thought something was wrong with me when I couldn't in exactly the same way that I thought something was wrong with me because I'm NB and on the ACE spectrum. That was harmful. Yeah, exactly. Trying the whole belief thing and talking about harm and no harm is just not a good argument for it. But thanks for the support, Becky.
$5 from Zurith Moonpaw. Do you have a favorite porn tag? You don't have to say the tag, just wondering since we're here on the topic. Genuinely, I am a homepage scroller. Like, I don't really look at anything up specifically, and I'm just always kind of interested to see what's like up, like what's new. Yes, most of the time I'm a homepage scroller. I'm trying to think of the last time that I like looked something up. But I'm kind of like down for whatever. And it kind of depends. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm down for until I'm scrolling. And then I'm like, oh, that looks good.
Yeah, I would agree with that. $5 from Unapologetically Chrissy. Thank you both for all you do. Have fun in Finland, promise. Also, what's your favorite Garfunkel and Oates song? And why is it The Loophole? Thanks so much.
That's awesome. $5 from the Raven 200. Alice from the Resident Evil movies awakened something in me. I'm 90% sure I love badass women. My love of badass women is because of her.
I named my dog Alice because of those movies and because of how much I love that character. Oh my God. I miss those movies. So good. Thank you for
Wait, I
reminding
don't think
me.
I've seen them.
Please go watch them.
I'm gonna
$4.99 from Juju Penguins. Hi, Juju. How does one find a sex therapist, and is that covered by insurance? Alyssa's
you
a
can
sex
find-
coach.
I am a sex coach. I'm not covered by insurance. You can find sex therapists through asect.org, AASECT.org. They have a directory on their website. And there will be some that are covered by insurance, the same way that like all therapists are. Like it'll be like roughly the same ratio of like some therapists do, some therapists don't. It's a personal choice that they get to make in their business. But yeah, go to asec.org and you'll find a list of sex therapists that have been trained and certified. And then you can go through and see like who takes your insurance. I think you could also probably do a search on psychologytoday.com.
$5 from Monkey at Typewriter. Has Promise's unicorn deity been named yet? If not, I suggest naming her Tinklebell, who enters the material world in fly form. Praise Tinklebell. Done. Tinklebell it is.
Oh, I love it.
Doesn't it make her kind of like a Pegasus then instead of a unicorn? I don't know.
Should I change her to a Pegasus?
She, maybe she is 3 in 1. Maybe she has her unicorn form. Maybe she has her Pegasus form, and maybe she has a third form that we haven't figured out yet, but we're going to. It's like the Father, Son, Holy Spirit,
I love it. Oh my God.
Yeah.
$9.99 from Darth Willow. The second coming. It's time to admit we're all wholly ghosted. That's really funny.
Holy ghosted.
I love it.
Thank you all so much. I'm gonna miss you guys. I will be back at some point, probably at 2 a.m. my time. So be nice about however I am then. But y'all are
gonna miss you so much.
Alyssa is going to bring on all kinds of cool people, and it'll be a great time. I'll just be the only one. So sad on well, obviously, to be totally honest, so that but the next day I'll be like, oh, they had their moment without me.
We're gonna miss you, and you're gonna have the best time, and you better come back.
Yeah,
at some point.
As long as I'm allowed back into the country, we'll see what's happening. Be careful out there, everybody. Love you guys. Thank you so much. You are so much smart and really best. Have a great night, guys.
Have a great night. Good luck.